February 11th, 2020, Board of County Commissioners Land Use and Public Hearing. Would you please stand and join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Ingles, do we have a certification of our agenda?
We do, Mr. Chair. Item 2A was properly continued from January 28th, 2020 until today. Item 2B did not require any specialized notice, but was properly noticed for today's meeting. Finally, item 3A required published notice that was accomplished on January 30th, 2020, at least 10 days prior to the hearing. We have notice and jurisdiction on all three items on your agenda.
And any of the commissioners have any disclosures for any item on our agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And I have none. So that moves us on to number 2 of our land use. And item A and B regards Castle Pines Village Filing 41, the final plat, and the subdivision improvements agreement. Presenting for staff on item A, Matthew Jakubowski.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Matt Jakubowski representing Planning Services. The item before you is the Castle Pines Village Filing number 41 final plat and the corresponding Subdivision Improvements Agreement Intergovernmental Agreement, or SIA-IGA. The project number is SB 2019-056. Matt Buster of David Evans and Associates is here on behalf of the applicant. The presentation will cover both the plat and the SIA-IGA, although 2 separate board motions would be required for either of those things. The applicant is requesting final plat approval of a 35-acre parcel into 60 lots, 3 tracks, and 5 private roadways. The majority of lots range from 10 to 15,000 square feet in size, with select larger lots from 18,000 to 25,000 square feet in size. The intent of the final plat process is to provide for the review of the final engineering plans, the subdivision improvements agreement, public dedications, and other legal agreements. The final plat process begins with the submittal of an application, following a review by referral agencies and the public, and acceptance of engineered plans. The request is considered by the board at a public meeting. During the process, staff received public comments from neighbors north of the site on Oxford Peak Lane, concerned about traffic impacts from vehicles utilizing Oxford Peak Lane to travel to the Chase Lane gate for access to and from I-25, and this is north of the proposed subdivision. To address these concerns, the applicant has agreed to installation of a gate within Lindsay Peak Lane outside the subdivision for emergency access only. The gate has been accepted by South Metro Fire and the Castle Pines Homes Association and will be reviewed again at time of installation. The applicant will provide some more detail on that gate as well. The site, which is outlined in blue, is located in the northeast corner of the Castle Pines Village Plan Development, west of Happy Canyon Road, bordering the city of Castle Pines, which is in the light blue color. Zooming in on the aerial, the site is located near single-family residences, north, which is Oxford Peak Lane right here, and Lindsay Peak Lane that we'll speak of, and south, which are residences on Cliffgate Lane. To the east is a Castle Pines Metro District water treatment facility, and of course northeast is the city of Castle Pines, which will at some point be developing its town center in that undeveloped area. The Castle Pines Plan Development was approved in 1984, and the community is nearing its anticipated build-out of 1,831 platted lots. The subject site is comprised of 3 planning areas, the R31, R41, and community open space 7 planning areas consist of the site. The proposed density within R31 and R41 is actually less than the density allowed by the plan development, and the Tract A open space, which is about 10 acres, is over the COS 7 area. The board approved a preliminary plan for the site in May 2019. Before you is an overview of the plat, designed per the Castle Pines PD Alternative Cluster Design Standards. Main access occurs at Country Club Drive, at both Trinity Peak Lane for the southern half of the subdivision, and Golden Bear Lane, which travels to the north and gets these lots in the northern half of the subdivision. The proposed emergency access gate, again, is outside the subdivision, and it's approximately at the northernmost tip, but in Lindsay Peak Lane. And as I mentioned, the applicant will provide some more detail on that. There are some easements for a cul-de-sac turnaround because it's an emergency access only gate, so there needs to be a way in which a vehicle could turn around if they get confused. Proposed tracks A, B, and C, tract A here in the middle, are primarily for open space. This tract will have some community trails in it, and it's 10 acres. Tracks B and C are along Country Club Drive and are intended as buffering for landscaping, screening, and retaining walls. Tract A will be dedicated to the Castle Pines Homes Association for ownership and maintenance. Tracks B and C will be dedicated to a new HOA formed for the community. Private roadways will be owned by the Castle Pines Homes Association and maintained by the Castle Pines Metro District via a separate agreement, as are all the roads within Castle Pines Village. Drainage and utility easements are generally proposed along the perimeter of lots and along roadways. The county will accept general purpose utility easements and secondary drainage easements via the final plat. The applicant will record an access easement over Lot 54 to gain access to Lot 55. There's some topography in this area that's made it that the applicant needs to provide access at that point. There's also another easement, which is a temporary turnaround easement within Lot 35 that the applicant will explain. It's related to the phasing of the subdivision, and the language in the easement is such that that will self-terminate once Golden Bear Lane reaches its northernmost point. All easements proposed by separate document will be recorded prior to recordation of the final plat. Following our site photos, this is a northwesterly view from Country Club Drive looking through the site. This photo is from the southwest corner of the site looking across the property to the east, so Country Club Drive being on the right side. This view is from the end of Lindsay Peak Lane looking south through the site, so from the northernmost tip of the site through the south. So tract A would be this area with the tree cover. Before you are the approval standards applicable to a final plat. Public Works Engineering has approved all required studies, reports, and construction plans for the final plat. Staff has evaluated the final plat in accordance with Article 5 of the subdivision resolution. Should the board find that the approval standards for the final plat are met, the following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1 has a slight change to what's included in the staff report. Condition number 1 is proposed as concurrent with rather than prior to recordation of the final plat. Douglas County Temporary Drainage and Detention Pond Easement at reception number 2009-062-906 shall be vacated. And that's such to protect the county that the easement would be vacated just at the same time basically as the plat. So it's sort of out of principle that protection would be there and that easement wouldn't be vacated until that plat is being recorded, so that if there was some consideration that happened, that easement would be there. That's the reason for that change. Condition number 2 and the red lines are related to a couple easements that actually it was a single easement related to 2 issues within the condition as shown in the staff report. The applicant actually recorded this easement recently, and with recordation of that easement, it's no longer necessary for the proposed condition to have these references to those easements. So that's the reason for the strike through. So I will read the condition, which is prior to recordation of the final plat. Condition number 2, that is, the following easements shall be recorded by separate instrument and noted on the plat exhibit. Shared access and driveway easement agreement over Lot 55 to provide access to Lot 54. Letter A. Letter B. CPV Inc. LLC waterline easement. Letter C. CPMD offsite drainage easements. And the reason for the strike through is that the applicant recorded the waterline easement that's referenced there in letter C. Letter D, CPHA temporary access easement within Lot 35. Previous letter E, as shown in the staff report, is now inapplicable to the condition, as an offsite trail easement was already recorded. Therefore, it changes the lettering so that the new condition 2E is CPHA offsite access and roadway easement at the ends of Lindsay Peak Lane and Golden Bear Lane. Condition number 3, prior to gate installation, the final location and design of the emergency access gate within Lindsay Peak Lane shall be approved by South Metro Fire Rescue Authority. Condition number 4, prior to issuance of the first building permit within Castle Pines filing number 41, the applicant shall implement the recommendations of the Wildland Fire Mitigation Plan to the specifications of the Douglas County Wildfire Mitigation Specialist. Condition number 5, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigns shall take all reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other cultural history resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County in the event of such discovery. Condition number 6, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigns shall conduct a burrowing owl study if any earth moving will take place between March 15th and October 31st. Condition 7, technical corrections to record copy of the final plat exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And condition number 8, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public meeting and or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. The board shall evaluate the final plat, staff report, and the parameters indicated here in section 50406 are provided on this slide. And now to the SIA-IGA. The SIA-IGA for Castle Pines filing 41 is a 3-party agreement, as noted on this slide. The purpose of the agreement is to provide for the completion of improvements associated with filing 41 as shown, which include various infrastructure trail improvements and the emergency access gate. This concludes the presentation on the filing 41 plat and SIA-IGA. As I mentioned in the opening, 2 motions would be necessary, one for the SIA-IGA and the second for the final plat. And we do have the applicant representative, Matt Buster, here from David Evans and Associates. He does have a presentation to describe the project in more detail and also can provide some more detail on the gate and some of the easements that I mentioned during my presentation.
Very well. Thank you, Matt. Any
Thank you.
questions for Matthew at this time?
I have none, thank you.
You know, I just have a couple of questions for staff, and it's with regard to some of the conditions set forth in the application. So number 3, with regard to gate installation, there was a reference to traffic concerns as a result of the public outreach, and that gate installation would be emergency gate access, Lindsay Peak Lane, approved by South Metro Fire Rescue Authority. Does staff have any question or concern that that would not be approved by South Metro Fire?
Matt Jacobowski for staff. We do have a letter in the attachments of the staff report from South Metro Fire that essentially provides a preliminary acceptance of the gate, but we recognize that as there'd be construction or installation, there would need to be a final sign off of that. So I'm not concerned as far as whether the gate would go in or not. It would just be some of the technical details that would be discussed, and perhaps the applicant could provide any more detail as well if you would like.
Okay, no, the letter seems sufficient, but I just want to know if you had any other questions or concern about final approval from the authority on that gate access. The other question is with regard to the urban drainage, and there was in the referral comments, there was one question with regard to insufficient information. And perhaps my colleague who sits on that board has a greater insight in terms of that urban drainage comment, but have they received enough information to adequately comment?
Afternoon, Commissioners. Al Peterson for engineering staff. I believe this has been addressed. The final plans have been forwarded to Urban Drainage, and they have reviewed those, and I believe that has addressed their comment here.
It has. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Presti, I'll get to you in a second here, but Mr. Peterson, while you're still at the microphone there, did you have anything additional to add regarding the subdivision improvement agreement?
I do not. It's a standard boilerplate agreement that the attorney's office has already reviewed. I will take questions, but I have no presentation other than what Mr. Jacobowski has presented to you.
Any questions for Al?
I have none.
And I have none.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate it. Mr. Buster, if you would state your name, spelling your last name, and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Matthew Buster, address 1600 Broadway, Denver, Colorado, with David Evans and Associates. I'll try to speed through these first few slides as they're a little bit redundant to what Matt's already covered.
And spelling your last name.
Oh, Buster, B-U-S-T-E-R.
Thanks, sir.
See if I can figure out how to drive. But this is another picture of the site taken just on the western side of the property looking south towards Pikes Peak to give you a little different perspective from what Matt had shown. As Matt mentioned, it's located in the Castle Pines Village Plan Development. Planning areas R31, R41, and COS 7. Each of those planning areas allowed for more density than what is currently proposed. In composite, the total of 83 units would have been allowed, subtracting the area that has been overgiven for open space, and 60 units are proposed. So everything is, density has been reduced and open space has been exceeded. The R41 parcel lies on the north side of the open space. The open space is represented by Tract A. 27 lots are proposed in what you see in blue. R31 is located on the south side of the open space, and 33 lots are proposed within planning area R31. And the open space, as Matt mentioned, is Tract A, Tract B, and Tract C, totaling 13.16 acres of the 35-acre total. And the whole project together looks something like that. Just to kind of give some updates, and don't let me forget what I have to talk about related to Matt's portion, but some of the modifications that have occurred since the time of preliminary plat approval is there was a center roadway approved with the preliminary plan located in the middle of Trinity Peak Lane, causing 3 access points on Country Club Drive to the south. That road was restudied and envisioned really to be unnecessary, and it also was adding some additional headlight impacts on the community to the south. So as a result of traffic studies not showing it being needed, as well as reduced headlight glare, that was decided to be removed, and that was done by the applicant as a result of public feedback. The 2 detention ponds that were located in Tract A were converted to a single pond. What that allowed us to do was to reduce the impacts on the open space area, the area that was otherwise encumbered by a 100-year water surface in the pond has been reduced, allowing for more trees to remain. And while I'm on that subject, as far as the question regarding the urban drainage standards, all of the urban drainage current standards have been used in the sizing of the detention as well as the storm sewer system. You may or may not know, but urban drainage recently updated their spreadsheets and protocols for water quality detention and extended urban runoff volume release rates, and the design reflects their current up-to-date standards. In addition, Castle Pines Metro District previously had requested some separate easements located within Tract A for utilities, as well as drainage. And after re-studying the plans, they requested that those be replaced just with a blanket easement across Tract A. So going back to Tract A, just a little more on Tract A, there was a sewer line proposed to serve the lots in blue because the topography in blue is higher than what is in green. So the sewer system is located in Tract A. That area primarily was the major utility easement that the Metro District had requested. After reconsideration, they just requested a blanket utility and drainage easement across all of Tract A. So in regards to the slight amendment on the condition of the detention pond easement vacation, which is shown in red, this is the trail or the road access to the pond, and this is the existing pond. That is the easement that is being requested to be vacated. And in its place, a new easement with the recordation of the plat will be given to the county just as it is to the Metro District across all of Tract A for that same access and drainage and detention maintenance purpose. The intent of that easement is in the event that the Castle Pines Metro District does not fulfill its maintenance obligations, the county then would have the right to come in, make those modifications or maintenance, and assess the Metro District the associated fees. The other thing that has been studied since the time of preliminary plan is the phasing of the development. The phasing will include 2 phases. Lots 1 through 34 will be in phase 1, and lots 35 through 60 will be in phase 2. The hope is that we will be able to progress one phase to the other in fairly quick priority, but that obviously will be a function of market conditions. But lot 34 is the first blue lot that you see north of lot 33 here. So that would be the end of phase 1. The reason that is ending for phase 1 is there are some drainage improvements and a low point in the road here that more or less require this portion of the road to be constructed. So lot 34 will have full roadway access and utility services as a result of that drainage condition. As Matt mentioned, the temporary cul-de-sac easement that is impacting lot 35, which is the first lot of phase 2, is written as a self-terminating easement such that phase 1 will pave this portion of Golden Bear Lane and stop at the cul-de-sac. And then once phase 2 begins, the remainder of Golden Bear will be paved, and at that point, when the pavement is complete, the cul-de-sac easement will go away in lot 35. Lastly, restricted access, which was probably the largest public concern that came about since the time of preliminary plat or preliminary plan. We processed a preliminary plan in May and had no objections or concerns about traffic. And those concerns later evolved after the final plat application. And several of the neighborhood residents to the north, go back to the plan, living up in this portion of the community were concerned with the traffic levels from this project using Lindsay Peak Lane and traveling north to what is Chase Lane and Legay Road for access to I-25. So a updated traffic study was done to evaluate that traffic. What the conclusions were is there's an estimated 478 weekday trips that will be generated as a result of the new development, 172 of which is to go north via the Chase Lane to Legay Road access. What that converts to in an AM/PM peak is roughly 12 trips in the morning, or the AM peak would be using Lindsay Peak to Oxford Peak to Chase, and roughly 16 vehicles in the PM. So those aren't very large numbers, but because of the community concern and as trying to be good neighbors, the applicant has agreed to install a emergency vehicle access gate, which is depicted crudely here, and in more detail is shown here. But essentially what will be done is Lindsay Peak was originally constructed in 2002 as a dead-end road that would be continued later. With this plan, Lindsay Peak will essentially end in a roundabout, or a cul-de-sac bulb, and will be barricaded from traveling southbound to Golden Bear Lane with an emergency vehicle access gate. So concerns related to the location of the gate that were brought up really are nothing major. As you can see, it doesn't have the ability to move too far. We just wanted to have the flexibility to work with South Metro on whether or not they have any concerns related to the gate size. The idea is, in working together with the Castle Pines Homes Association, they have gates that they have used in other emergency vehicle situations, and we'd like to reuse those gates. And South Metro Fire has said that that would be acceptable, but they'd like to see a more architectural design before doing so. So what we're talking about as far as change is just, a few feet in either direction to accommodate gate clearances. We also mentioned this access easement here. There's a roadway and access easement to cover these two gray portions of the street that are impacting the neighboring property owned by Rivendell UM Land, and those will be obtained prior to plat recordation. And lastly, this is one of our model homes that we're looking to be constructing later this year, maybe this summer, but that gives you an idea of the product type that will be located on these lots. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bester. Questions?
I don't have any questions, but perhaps just a comment for the applicant. First and foremost, it's always a pleasure to see you here, Mr. Buster. You always do a great job, very professional and well prepared. And the questions that I had have been addressed. So thank you for that.
I have one question, but it's for the county attorney, Mr. Ingalls. So I'd just like to put this on the record. We've had other applications that have come to us, and neighbors in the existing neighborhoods have been opposed to a road that would connect into their neighborhood and have asked for a gate. And as I recall those situations, there is a state law that prohibits a gate being used. So I would just like to have it on the record why, in this particular case, a gate is being used when the other times we were asked, the explanation was that it could not be done.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. There is a law that prohibits counties from closing county roads to the public for other than for maintenance and for a limited period of time. And that law has been cited from time to time so that we don't close county roads via a gate and prohibit the public from using them. I believe these particular roads are not going to be county roads, is the first part of my answer to your question. But also from time to time, we will allow a gate on a road, a county road, so long as on both sides of the gate, the road remains open to the public and the public could access it. While rare, we have done that in a couple different situations. But the law would prohibit us from closing county roads to public access. So if these were county roads, I think that would be a discussion we would have to have. And the question would be, would the roads remain open to the public on both sides of the gate in order to confirm whether we're complying with the law or not?
And so the compelling fact here is that these roads in question are private roads. They are not county roads.
That is my understanding, yes.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the applicant to verify that Lindsay Peak Lane is a private road, not a county road. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. All of the roads within the Castle Pines Village Plan Development are privately owned by the Homes Association as far as the title of the roadway is concerned. The maintenance by a contract is the responsibility of the Castle Pines Metro District, but the Castle Pines Homes Association, being the owner of the road, who is also here if needed, is in favor of the gate and is supporting its installation.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bester. This time, I'll open it up for anyone in the audience like to address the board regarding this application, item number 2A and 2B. Seeing no one. Thank you, Ms. Bester. I'll bring it back to the board for any further questions, any further discussion, deliberation. Mr. Ingalls, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just real quick, before you get into deliberations, as you know, staff prepares a potential motion log for you for these meetings. Under item 2, there are 2 motions listed, motions A and B. Those are actually in reverse order of how your agenda is in front of you. So if you do take the motions in the order that they're proposed, please understand that they correspond exactly opposite to how the agenda reads.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you. Staff, would it be possible to put up on the board the criteria, please? Thank you. I've read each one of these items, and I believe that this project meets all of the approval standards that are listed here on the board. And I'd also like to note we had no citizens here complaining or having concerns about this item, so I will be in support.
And I would echo my fellow commissioners' comments. Based on the approval standards, from my perspective where I'm sitting, it appears as though all of those approval standards have been met.
Thank you for those comments. Did we have approval standards in 504.06? I thought I had heard or saw you refer to that, but in your presentation, Matthew. Very good. I understand where you're at now. Yes, I agree. The criteria, it was 50301 we're considering this application with. Very good. We have no further questions. Any further deliberation?
Did the applicant say they met the conditions?
Yes. Mr. Buster, would you mind stepping to the lectern again? Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. There are the 8 conditions as presented in the staff presentation. Are you in agreement with those 8 conditions as presented?
Do I need to say my name? Matt Buster again, representing the applicant, David Evans Associates. We do accept the 8 conditions as currently amended, redlined on the slides.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Thomas.
You're welcome. With that, are you waiting for a motion? I have a motion to approve subdivision improvements agreement, intergovernmental agreement between Castle Pines Summit LLC, Castle Pines Metropolitan District, and the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners. Douglas County Job Number DV 19-296.
Second.
We have a first and a second. No further discussion. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Next motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Castle Pines Village filing 41 final plat with the 8 conditions as presented and amended by staff. Project file SB 2019-056.
Second.
We have a first, second. No further discussion. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Very good. Congratulations. Thank you. Brings us our next item, our public hearing, item number 3A, Two Bridges Agricultural Lease Agreement, presenting for staff, Cheryl Matthews.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. On your agenda is this Two Bridges Agricultural Lease Agreement. This will give you an idea exactly where it's located. As you can see, we have the Bayou Gulch open space to the north and east of it, or the west, and then the Two Bridges property that we got in late 2017 is 412 acres, and the farming area is in that big loop to the south. And this is a picture of, it's right in here. That's the area there. The trail comes out around, all the way around it. So some of the history of it, this Mountain View Farms, Mr. Stan Walden has been farming wheat on the property for quite some time. He farmed it with the High Prairie Polo Club before the Two Bridges people came in and bought it. And then, as you know, we did an exchange where we got the 412 acres of open space in exchange for taking over public support of the roads within the community. So we inherited the lease, and in 2017, because we got it so late in the year, the funding went to the lessee. And now we get 1/3 share of the crop. And whenever he produces it, he sells it, does all the farming and everything. So the first year we got $1,500, and this year we got over $5,000 as our 1/3 share. So the farming activity there does not interfere with the public access at all and kind of keeps that historical use on the property. So some of the lease specifics are the term at the moment is from January 1, 2020 through the end of the year, and we have the option to renew it for 5 additional 1-year terms. The lessee has the right to produce the annual agricultural crop, which is wheat, which he then takes to the market and handles all of the arrangements. The lessee is responsible for all costs related to the farming, with the exception of the fertilizer and weed control, which we share 1/3 with him. We would need to do weed control regardless, just because we don't want noxious weeds to take over the property. And then, as I said, the county gets 1/3 of the crop and the lessee receives 2/3. The lease cannot be assigned or subleased at all, so nothing changes. He is required to keep the property in as good a condition and repair as it currently exists, and he shall maintain comprehensive liability insurance throughout the life of the lease. So we recommend that we approve the lease and have this continue so that we can continue to receive some revenue and keep the historic farming on the property. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Cheryl. Questions for Cheryl?
Thank you for that presentation, Cheryl. I have one question about how is determined with the 1/3 and 2/3 split. Is that something that is common practice with this kind of operation, or how is that number decided on?
It is, and when we do like our hay production, depending on whoever's doing the hay, it can be a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split. So this is kind of a normal thing where they do all the work, so they get basically 2/3 of the crop and we get 1/3. So that's fairly standard.
Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, Cheryl. It's always a pleasure to see you here, sharing good information with us. My question is for council. I'm wondering, can you confirm, Mr. Ingalls, that this particular arrangement does not confer any special benefit upon an individual or an entity in violation of state statute?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I don't believe that there's anything in, let me start with the open space resolution, the thing that authorizes us to use our open space in this manner, the thing that required us to give notice for this type of lease. There's nothing in that, nor is there anything in statute that would prohibit us from entering into a lease of this nature.
Thank you.
And I might mention that Carmen did review this and make some revisions to it in order to have it perfectly legal.
And Cheryl, can we assume this is dry land wheat, so there's no irrigation, so it's
Right.
only natural water?
Right.
Very good, thank you. No further questions? All right, at this time, I'll open it up for the audience. Anyone in the audience would like to address the board regarding this application, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the commissioners for any further discussion, questions, and/or motion.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve Two Bridges agricultural lease agreement.
Second.
We have a first and a second. No further discussion. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. That concludes.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Cheryl. That concludes the agenda, and so we are adjourned.